we made it through another week. So before we go out on this weekend, I wanted to share some information with you this morning in hopes that it can kind of help you to give you something to think about over the weekend. And as I was thinking about it, I ended up laying out some material, just kind of writing some things down so that I wouldn't forget. And so I was thinking in the world of psychology about, change when you're talking to people about change. And so you use these models to try to explain what is meant by change as you walk through it, or anything that you're talking to someone about. And being in the world of psychology and counseling and things of sort, you want to make sure that you're on target in what it is that you're doing, even at points when I've done presentations on change. And so I wanted to take some material that I had to share with you on this Friday morning as you go into the weekend, because I feel like it's important that we do this, especially when I look at people going through so many changes. We're all having to change, especially, again, I always mention this because it's the current, what we called in college a lot was current events. You had to take a course in that. And it's one thing I remember about my professor in undergrad, in that course of ethics and the one on current events. You have to make sure that you talk about the things that's currently happening and how do you get to a different part of that change in life. And a lot of it is going through the model, and overall, there's about 6,000 nationwide, 6,000 models that's used on change, talking about change. And so what I is over 6,000 about now, from when I actually started out getting my training on this through my academics during my college career. And that was both in my bachelor's and my master's. And so I just felt excited about, the fact that I could pull this information up, notes that I had taken, and share it with you because, again, like I said, we're going through so many changes right now. With this pandemic, it's really just kind of sent us in a different direction. But that's okay because we're going to be all right because we're stronger than we think that we are, that we tend to believe that we are. And sometimes it means, what change means, and I was told this in my ethics course, change means that you got to get out of that comfortable space that you're in, but you can't just jump out of it. You got to identify some things. And so we're going to talk about reframing your mind. And again, I'm going to go back and talk about, go through some material that I found on a presentation that I did a few years ago. So I want to talk about on today, reframing your mind. And then I want to use the Sarah model of change. Sarah, just like in the name Sarah. So, and in that model of change, and again, like I told you earlier, it's over nationwide, it's over 6,000 models of change. So this is just one, and this is one that I like. So listen to me closely as we go through this morning. First of all, I want to start out with a statement. And it's a statement that was made by JFK, okay? So the statement that he made, listen to me closely. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past are certain to miss the future. Let me say that again. This is JFK when he was talking about change. His statement on it years ago. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past are certain to miss the future. In other words, what he was telling us years ago, if you keep looking in that rearview mirror behind you, you'll stay back there. You're not ready for the future. To go for the future, you got to go for what we often say, go for the gusto. You got to go for what's in front of you. You got to let that past be the past. You got to let some stuff go from your past in order to walk into your future. And the only reason and the only way that we can do that is we can't be afraid of change. And so often we freak out when we have to change. But don't, because there are some benefits, and we're going to get to that in change, okay? There's benefits for you, there's benefits for me. And, and once we accept it, we grow. Just like that statement by JFK, change is the law of life. The reason why it's the law of life is because it's most of the times it's something that was just not a plan that you had. And it's something that makes you uncomfortable because it's outside of the norm. Look at the pandemic. We didn't always have to live with the pandemic. So now we're not in what we say a normal state in society. And normal means we've been doing it this way. We're going to keep doing it this way because it worked. But now when that pandemic came, guess what? We had to change some things. A lot of us are working from home instead of going into our workplaces. That's a change. Our children, they're having to be pulled out of the schools again because that's a change. So if we don't get ourselves, listen, if we don't get ourselves to a point where we can be wiser and stronger in this walk in life, we're going to cause a lot of people as adults, our younger people who are following after us and watching us, we're going to cause them to fall because we have to be able to shift lanes, and shifting lanes mean changing so that we can explain that to younger people, the importance of preparing yourself for change, Now, listen to this. I want to tell you about a secret. Remember this. The secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fixing the old, but on building the new. Okay? Listen to me again. The secret to change, we're talking about change this morning, is to focus all of your energy, the energy that you have, not on fixing the old, but on building the new. That's why you at a new place in your life. That's why you're doing different things in your life. That's why you're beginning to look at life differently, because you're not trying to fix the old, but you're building the new. And if you don't believe that, just take a step back and look at your own individual life and look at some things recently, some current things that you are doing that you thought in a million years you wouldn't have never even tried. But you know why? You tapped into that secret of change, and you realized that you no longer needed to focus your energy, all of your energy, on trying to fix the old, but you switched lanes and you began to build on the new. Okay? So as we go through this morning, just keep that in mind. So that's starting out with some information that I had down on change, okay? But listen to this. I'm going to give you 5 areas through the Sarah model of change. Number 1, shock. Number 2, anger. Number 3, resistance. Number 4, acceptance. And number 5, hope and healing. Keep that in mind. And again, you don't have to use my model. You can look up other models of change. But let me tell you, research is always good because it gives you a insight on how to approach things in a different manner from someone else's perspective. So with the model that I'm using this morning of change, the Sarah model, let's start out with number 1, shock. People react with shock or denial when they are newly introduced to change. You just think about when you was introduced to this pandemic. You were like in shock. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I got to move all of my equipment from my office into my house. I got to get my system set up where I can tap into the computer, the IT system at the school and with myself at the college. It's just things I had to do. That's with all of us. You know what you had to do. That change, you experienced some shock. And all that shock was that you reacted with shock. And some of it was denial. Is this really happening? When you got introduced to that change. Number 2, anger. Listen to me closely. Shock can manifest anger. Yes, it can. Because you develop some anxiety because you realize the implications of the change. In other words, that anxiety set in. When I first started coming to the table, I talked about that low-grade depression. That was a part of our anxiety. And it still exists because things just seem to not have settled down as much as we would have liked for it to have settled down. It seems like we're on this roller coaster. But hang on, because that's just a part of change. So don't get frustrated. Just know your first step was shock. You pretty much made it through that now, all of us. Then we went through anxiety, okay? That anger, because the shock triggered it. I'm talking through at a counseling perspective now. That shock triggered the anxiety that was placed in your life that created that anger of having to pull so many things together. And it's not just with the pandemic. That's life overall. Whenever something happens, I tell you what, it's big in loss. When we lose people, to death, oh my goodness, that's a huge change. Because you've got to get yourself used to not seeing that person anymore. On this side. And you do go through that same model of change. You go through the shock first. Did that really happen? And then the anger, because the shock triggers it. And then because you start looking at the implications of it. The implication is now I've got to go and do some things and rearrange my life without that individual being in it. On this side. And so how am I going to get through that? See, that's a shock turning into anger, triggering that anger. Now resistance, that's number 3. Resistance, you ever notice I use the word a lot, inflexible. That's what resistance causes. Because people refuse to accept the idea of change. They refuse to accept the idea of change. So that's why resistance comes in. And that's where people who are inflexible, they hate change. We've been doing it this way for 50 years. And this is just the way we gonna do it. And it's going to be what we want it to be. And when I say we, I'm not talking about collectively as a group. I'm saying like as individuals, people do that. And I'm comfortable with that. And that's it. But that's not how the world works. You have to change with time, or you're going to get stuck, or you're going to do like I told you, you're not going to tap into the secret to change. You're going to keep trying to fix the old instead of building the new. Let me say that again, in resistance. For those of you out there who have made that choice to be inflexible, because that's all resistance is that I just can't accept this change. I would rather try to continue to fix the old instead of building on the new. And, whether we want to admit it or not, that's a little bit of insanity going on now. That's some insanity. You keep doing the same thing, getting the same result, and you don't want to change. Every year, the auto industry, they build new cars, they roll out new cars. And they might take that car that they built in 2018 and change the tail lights on it. But you know that the tail lights doesn't look like the tail lights that they built in and installed in 2018. That's what tells you that it's a 2019. And then it just goes on and on and on. They changed the body style, the structure of the car. And that is what entices us to go out there and want that year, the current year that is upon us, like 2021. They're going to build some cars that somebody's going to want that car. But guess what? It doesn't look like the cars that they built back in 1970 or 1980. You know why? Because the people, the consumer, would lose interest in the product. So the product, the manufacturer says, we got to make it different. We got to continue to give them something new and make them look for that next thing. And that's the same thing in your life and in your mind. You got to tap into the secret of change and look for something new to build on. Stop being stuck in the past. It's not worth it. Being stuck in the past is not worth it, because look here, when you're stuck in the past, in your mind, oh, everything just fine. I'm not going to change anything. Everything just fine. We good over here. That's where you're at with that when you do that. So, again, that's resistance. That brings about inflexibility. Now, listen to this. Acceptance. We went from shock to anger to resistance to acceptance. When you get to acceptance, now you get into that side of flexible people. Flexible people, you ready for change. You want some change. You want to do something different. Even in churches are doing things different now. Some people are online. They never thought in a million years that they would be doing their services online. But then, that was the change. It had to be done to still feed the people. There are some people who are returning, and there are some people who are not. It's all about the change and how you are going to orchestrate the change. But that's being flexible. That's trying to do that next thing that needs to be done to make sure that your ideas move forward. Your service whatever type of service you're providing, move forward. Yeah, we got to live different now. We got to walk around with the mask now. We got to walk around with the gloves on our hands now. There's a lot of things that we got to do now. And guess what? It's a benefit in it. Stop looking at it as being a negative thing because something changed and it didn't change the way that you wanted it to change and how you wanted it to change. Get with the program. Jump in the process and keep moving, because things are going to change whether you want them to or not. There's some things right now, when you go to some banks, you cannot go in still. They're not taking that chance of the virus coming into their building. But for many of us, we had to adjust to the change. And so we had to do everything from the outside of the building. But you know what? The benefit of that is it's keeping everybody safe in the manner in which that industry chooses. When you go to your public libraries, they got the coverings over all the keyboards so that they can go out there once you leave and wipe that covering down. You're not touching those keyboards. And you should go in with your gloves. See, one thing protect the other. And then they check your temperature when you go in the library. But you're not going to go in there freely like you used to. See, that's a change. Adjust to it. Be flexible and accept it. So that's the acceptance of change. Now, healing and hope. That healing and hope through everything in this model, shock, anger, resistance, acceptance, now you get to hope and healing. So here, you've manifested a new behavior. In other words, you learned how to function throughout that change. Now now it's in you. Now it's in you to do something a different way. And not only to do it a different way, but to feel good about what you're doing and how you're doing, and you looking at the results from when you accepted that change. Understand what I'm saying? We all need to get to the point of accepting change. As long as it's something good, change it for the better. Even if you're in bad situations, it's only you can open up that secret to change. Bad relationships, whatever. A job that's just horrific and you dread going there, see, you might be time for a change. Maybe you're deciding whether or not to go back to college. And it don't have nothing to do with age. People go back to college all the time. That would be a change. But if you want to do it, you do it. You got to start somewhere. Let's open up that secret to change. Like I told you, you have to get it in your mind that I'm not going to spend and exhaust myself trying to fix the past. I am rather going to start building on the new and put the old behind me. And until you do that, you cannot reframe your mind. And that is what change causes you to do. So let me talk about that briefly. Reframing your mind. See, don't be afraid to talk about what you want to talk about. Don't be afraid to think on things that you want to think on. Don't be afraid to get off the curb and out into the streets and explore. Do not be afraid Because as long as you are afraid, you will not change. You will not go into this next phase that I'm getting ready to talk about. You will not reframe your mind. How do I reframe my mind? Okay, glad you asked. I'm going to tell you. There's 4 ways to reframe your mind. Identify your current beliefs. That's number 1. In order to reframe your mind, identify your current belief. In other words, this is how I function. This is how I believe I can function daily. But this is not really working out at the level or the benefit in which I would like to see it. So I got to change something, okay, in my beliefs. So again, stay with me now, reframing your mind. So you identify your current belief. That's number 1. Let's move to number 2. Number 2, notice the underlying attitude that colors your beliefs and values. Okay? Listen to me closely. Notice the underlying attitude that colors your beliefs and values. That's reframing your mind. That's the second step. First, you're going to identify your current beliefs. Secondly, you're going to notice the underlying attitude that colors your beliefs and your values. What do you believe in? What do you value? What can you keep in and what do you want to take out? That's totally up to you. But in reframing your mind, you got to do that. You have to face that. You have to identify with some things. You got to understand. Again, I keep going back to this because this is important. You got to get to that point to open up your mind to the secret to change is that I must not focus all of my energy on fixing the old, but building on the new. That is how you move to the next level. That is how you continue to reframe your mind and go through these different levels of getting through a change and getting on the beneficial side of it. And I'm going to share that once we get through these 4 levels here that I'm discussing right now. Number three, adopt a new mindset. That right there alone would put the icing on the cake for many of us. We have to adopt a new mindset. I've traveled a lot, just in the beginning, to go and do presentations. And, you know, as you're traveling, you just think of so many things, even before you get to your destination. Because something always, your mind is ready to change. Your mind is ready to talk about some things and that you really didn't put down there on paper that you was going to discuss with your audience. But when you get there, you see the reason. Once you take the stage, you see the reason why all of these ideas continue to come in your mind, because guess what? Everybody's not going to accept what you say in the same manner. So you're able to throw some other things out there to capture the attention of the audience that you are dealing with, those who you are sending your message out to. So adopt a new mindset. And at that time, that's what you have to do, all of us. It don't have to be that you go and do a presentation. It don't have to be that you, whatever you do in your business, it don't have to be that you just do that thing in order to adopt your mindset. Overall, we all have to adopt our mindset to the new. Because if we don't, guess what? We're going to stay stuck in the past. We will stay stuck in the past. And we'll be afraid to build the new. And no, the new don't always look as prosperous as you want it to when you first start out, but put it out there. I told y'all before, when I was on the task force, And I would hear the detective saying a lot of times sitting around the table, and they said, we just throw things, we'll throw something against the wall and see what sticks. And that's the way that you are doing when you are trying to adjust yourself to a new mindset and doing something different. You throw some things up against the wall and see what sticks. What idea sticks? What idea can you move forward with? What idea will put you in a new mindset? And this is something I'm going to say to everybody this morning. Stop allowing people to limit you. Stop it. I hear that so much. I want to do this, but I want to do that, but it's always I want to do it, but. You know why you're saying that? Because you're allowing somebody else. Because behind the but comes a negative statement. Just think about all the buts in your life, statements that you made. When you got to that but, it wasn't nothing but a negative statement that was coming after it. I would do that if. You know why? Because you're not opening up the channels of your mind to be readjusted and to think differently in a new mindset. Next, number 4, reframe your thoughts. The way you've been thinking about things, get out of that mindset. Start thinking positively. You know what? I would never know if I was going to fail at something if I never tried it. You have to try it. If you don't try something, you will never know whether or not you would have failed at it. And a lot of things, you ever notice, the things that you tried, very few things didn't have a good result. Very few. But most of the things, when you started trying them, you started building on them, and they flourished. And again, everything might not happen instantaneously, but it will happen if you keep working on it. But you have to adjust and reframe your thoughts. That's how you reframe your mind. I gave you 4 steps in reframing your mind. I'm going to run through those really quick. Number 1, identify current beliefs. Number 2, notice the underlying attitude that colors your beliefs and values. Number 3, adopt a new mindset. And number 4, reframe your thoughts. That's how you reframe your mind. It all goes together and connects with that Sarah model of change. It all connects. It brings it together full circle. Now, to capitalize on new opportunities, listen to me closely. To capitalize on new opportunities, I'm going to give you 3 things. You regain, this is when you're capitalizing on your new opportunities. Regain a sense of control. You got to do that. Regain a sense of control. Be in control of what it is that you're choosing to do. Be in control of your business, whatever that business is. Be in control of your life. Just be in control of whatever you have reframed your mind to do, okay? Now, gain the passion back, okay? Gain the passion back. Whatever it is that you have a passion for and you feel like you've lost your way in it, regain your passion. And even if it's not the same thing, regain your passion in new things. There's some things you are passionate about. I'm passionate about speaking. I love to do public speaking because I got so much up here in my head. I love sharing information. That's what I love. Because I'm always in the house picking up material, buying new books because I like to read, and finding out new information, going back and looking at some of my training in behavioral sciences. And so I have an enormous amount of books on that, looking at behaviors, studying that. I just like it. That's something that I like doing. But I build on that because you don't just use that in one arena. You use your talent in many ways that you might not have even tapped into. But you have to know that's your gift, and you should never be embarrassed about it. See, a lot of us, we're embarrassed about it because we're so busy thinking about how somebody else is going to feel about it. Get away from that. Reframe your mind so you can capitalize on your new opportunities. And number 3, listen to this closely. Reinvent yourself. Reinvent yourself. So I've given you 3 things to capitalize on new opportunities. This is all in reframing your mind. Number 1, regain a sense of control. Number 2, gain your passion back. And number 3, reinvent yourself. Do something you want to do and do something new. And even that thing that you are doing right now, add to it. It's still a change. Just take a different approach on a service that you might be providing, on a book that you might be writing. Don't let people limit you. And this is another thing. Learn how to encourage somebody else. Don't let it always be all about you. Learn to encourage others. That'll help you grow. It really will. Because you're sharing your information and you're watching your information grow. You're watching your gift grow. When you share it with somebody else, you watching your gift grow. Some of what you are doing, some people would love to do it and they don't know how to do it. But if you take out the time to say, this is how I did it. And not in a demeaning way, but in a helpful way. And once they begin to see a change in their lives and they start working on that gift and they realize that you helped them along the way, they'll never forget that. See, investing in other people is just as important as investing in yourself. And remember this, you're not going to always get a return, but just know that whatever you did in that investment, whatever you put into that investment, and even they may never come back and tell you thank you. They may not, whatever, never respond to you. That ain't got nothing to do with you. You did what you could do to help them move to that next level, and that's where you're going to get your blessing. So don't worry about that. So reinvest in yourself. Now, the why is bigger than what you see in your vision for your life. Why am I doing this? I mentioned this a few days ago. Why? Keep this in mind. The why is bigger than what you see in your vision for your life. Why am I doing this? And as you continue to do it, your why becomes clearer. Why am I doing this? Why do I keep doing this? Why is my interest in this? And with time comes wisdom. And with wisdom comes the opening of knowledge. And the difference between the two is that knowledge means you just know something. Wisdom means that you're wise enough to apply what you know. So when you get to that why, start asking that why. That is the knowledge transforming into the wisdom, which is opening up the channels of your mind to say, this is why I do this. This is why my interest is here. This is why I'm going to reframe my mind. And this is why I am not going to exhaust myself with trying to fix the old. I'm going to take that energy and build on the new. See what I'm talking about? Now, lastly, I'm going to leave this statement with you. Some information that I feel like will be helpful for you to think about over the weekend. Because I wanted to expand a little bit on reinventing yourself. I feel like it's so important. Reinventing yourself. Listen to me closely. You expand your ideas of who you are. To reinvent yourself, you expand your ideas of who you are, not somebody else, who you are. Number 2, redefine what you are capable of. In reinventing yourself, you have to not only expand your ideas of who you are, you also have to redefine what you are capable of. Number 3, use new skills in context. Use your new skills. Find a way to use new skills that you've developed. That's number 3. Number 4, disengage from your old identity. Excuse me. Disengage from your old identity. That's who you used to be. Look at the new you. Invest in the new you. You'll be all right. Because some things that you used to accept, you just can't tolerate them no more. See, the things that you used to accept when you were 20, you 40, you 50, you 60, whatever age you are now, you don't accept that anymore. You don't do things the way you used to. That is where you are now. You've taken that step of disengaging from your old identity. And you still have to continue to do that as long as you're living and as long as you're reframing your mind and as long as you're looking towards change. And then number 5, reinventing yourself, reminding yourself that this is what I'm doing. I am working on me. I am working on Electra. You tell yourself that, put your name there. I am working on whatever your name is. And you mean that. And you invest in you. And stop feeling guilty about investing in you. Because when you can stop feeling guilty about investing in yourself, you're going to get to the better part of your life, of who you are. And you're going to stop just existing and start living. And as long as you on this side, guess what? You deserve to have better. You, whoever you are out there, you deserve to have better. And you don't have to have people hoorahing you and cheering you on. You just know that, you know what? I'm about change. I'm about investing in myself. And I am about reframing my mind. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to leave you with this statement from JFK. And it's so powerful. But I wanted to say it before I get off today because I believe that this is something that we can take with us over the weekend as we go in and to enjoy this weekend. JFK many years ago said, change is the law of life. You don't like it. That's all he's saying. And those who look only to the past, those who look only to the past are certain to miss out on the future. Oh, yes. If you keep looking on the past, you will never see your benefits of the future. You will never see the benefit of changing your attitude, moving away from a negative state of mind to a more positive state of mind. You will never see that opportunity that sits out there that could help you financially. You'll never see that new set of people that have been sent into your life to add to your life. You don't see the joys of life. All you see is the past where people have hurt you. You have to, you must be flexible. Inflexibility doesn't better anybody. It doesn't benefit you being inflexible. Sure, mom and dad and them did it that way. That worked for them. We in a new day. We're in a new day. Some things you keep because it's your foundation, but there are a lot of new things. You have to be able to change that as well, to conform into that as well, so that you can get to better, so that you can get to your peak in life and realize life is so much bigger. It's so much bigger than what I see my vision in, than what I've envisioned. I can get to that why in my life. I can get to it and understand it. And when I have a better understanding, I will reframe my mind. It's important for you. It's important for me. So I wanted to leave that with you for the last day of the week until next week, for you to think about and kind of meditate on. And take a look at yourself, because you are worthy. You are worthy. And I want to say this before I get off, because I know that a lot of people think like this. We always got these ifs and our buts in lives because we're thinking on how somebody else is going to feel about what we do. But guess what? It ain't none of your business how somebody else feel about you. Understand that, believe that, trust that, and get on out there and make a change in your life and start building on the new, and stop trying to fix the past. You've already put enough energy into the past. Let's get moving. All right? Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Love you. Take care of yourself and stay safe. Bye-bye.